Guys, Sandra Bland, that name, Sandra Bland, was trending on Twitter a few days back. The reason is disturbing. Never before seen video obtained during the investigation of the incidents from her own cell phone paints a much different picture of her heated traffic stop with a police officer in Texas 4 years ago. So take a look.
Get out of the car now.
Why am I being apprehended? You trying to give me a ticket for the failure?
Get out of the car.
Why am I being apprehended? You just opened my car door. You just opened my car door. So you're threatening to drag me out of my own car.
Get out of the car.
And then you gonna stun me?
I will light you up. Get out.
Wow.
Now.
Wow. Yeah, pretty scary there. And as we know, she was aggressively arrested by this officer who said his safety was in jeopardy. 3 days later, she was found dead inside of her jail cell, and it was ruled a suicide. Now, the family has now seen this video, is asking for the investigation to be reopened. So I want to bring in Patrisse Cullors, who is the co-founder of Black Lives Matter. And we're also joined by Sonia Pruitt, who is the chairperson of the National Black Police Association. So guys, first, thanks for joining us on this. This is very important. Sonia, I want to start with you, and I just want you to walk us through the video, the portion that we saw, because I want you to help us understand what the protocol should have been and basically what your reaction was when you saw it.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. So, protocol could be different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The Supreme Court has ruled several times that it's okay to ask someone out of their car. But let's just keep in mind that just because you can do it as a police officer doesn't mean that you should. So his approach to Ms. Bland and writing the ticket, that's okay. If she committed a traffic violation, all right. But what's most egregious to me is what follows after he comes back to the car and asks her to put out her cigarette. I'm not sure what the danger was, whether he thought he was going to get burned or not. I'm not quite sure how he articulated where this danger was that would cause him to pull his taser. I mean, at some point, you have to use some sort of common sense and be cognizant that you're dealing with another human being. She asked him, "Why are you asking me out of my car?" Although nothing says we have to articulate that, I think police policy for every police department should say that you should articulate. You should tell people why you're asking them from their car.
Yes, and Patrisse, when we're watching this video, we see her exercising her rights, and a lot of people say, is there anything that she could have done differently? What was your reaction when you saw how this went down?
Well, the first thing that I thought was that Sandra Bland was exercising her right to know why she was being pulled over, and right to know why she was being asked out of the car. Not at any point did she escalate the situation. In fact, the officer escalated the situation, and she was trying to understand what was happening, and that was clear in the video.
Yeah, and can you just talk a little bit about this, common narrative of fear and self-defense used by police officers in many of these situations that we've seen?
Unfortunately, we've seen it over and over again that the reason police either harm or kill, Black people in particular, is because they feared for their life. And what we know now, especially because we've seen so many videos of officers apprehending white people with guns, white people who are physically fighting them, we know that they know how to de-escalate even when there is harm happening. And so many of the cases like Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, so many cases, Black people are just living their lives. And the unfortunate reality is that police officers, when they say they're scared for their lives, that's really racist code.
Yeah, and so Sonia, I want to go back to you because, after seeing this video now, it's been 4 years since this happened. Do you think this video is enough to reopen this investigation?
Absolutely. I personally felt that there was a travesty of justice when the charge of perjury was dropped against the trooper. I think that I don't know what the laws in Texas would support in terms of charging him with something else, but I do think it's well worth reopening the investigation. There's this, it seems to be this trend towards criminalizing Black women now. we are deemed aggressive. And then because we are aggressive, or because maybe we talk loudly or whatever is made up, then all of a sudden we're a criminal. And things like what happened to Miss Bland is happening. Women are being body slammed. They're rolling around on the Waffle House floor with their breasts showing. There's a trend here, and it's really disturbing. So yes, we would absolutely support reopening this case to examine what can be done in this particular case and what can be done moving forward.
Patrice, one thing I want to ask you about, something that I don't think is talked about enough, is just the trauma that these sorts of incidents induce in the Black community. I mean, we're living in an era now where you can see these things and replay them you can search it on Google, you can replay it on social media over and over and over again. Can you just talk about the psychological trauma of, learning new information and kind of reopening this case again?
I think what we have seen over and over again for dozens of years, and I would argue hundreds of years, is there is an intentional attack against Black people that creates the type of trauma when we experience law enforcement violence, but also now that we have technology where we are in some ways forced to witness the traumatic experiences. We don't talk about the mental health and emotional health impacts that over-policing and state violence has in our communities, both when we are in direct contact with law enforcement, but also when we are forced to watch these videos over and over again. I completely agree that the case must be reopened, and we also have to recognize what it means to reopen something, not just for Sandra Bland's family, but the rest of the Black community. It means we have to relive the gaslighting of law enforcement, right? They said that she committed suicide. We know that she was on her way to go to a new job, a new life. No one who is on their way to a new life tries to commit suicide. And so this argument is so important to name that Black folks are experiencing the daily traumas of racism.
Yeah. So before we wrap this up, Sonia, I just want to ask you, what is your association doing to help with this issue? I know after this incident, it led to the Sandra Bland Act that sort of is retraining cops. But what should be happening now?
So what we're in the best position to do is to continue to push our narrative, to tell our story as Black people, even as Black officers, because many of us experienced the same trauma that we were just speaking about. So we're going to follow up on the case. We're going to contact the people that are in Texas that can best help us push this narrative, make sure that the case is reopened, and let the family know in particular that we're there to support them.
Yeah, and Patrice, finally, what do you think the next step should be? I know that several 2020 candidates have made comments about it in tweets. Have any of them reached out to you, to the Black Lives Matter organization, in terms of what they can do to address this issue?
No, they haven't reached out, but I think we have to understand that Sandra Bland's case is like so many other cases across the country. And so the next steps is reminding the public that police brutality, law enforcement violence has not ended, unfortunately, and that there are still long ways to go to change the way that law enforcement relates to Black communities. In California, we're passing a law, AB 392, that's going to look directly at the ways that law enforcement is allowed to kill folks. And so we are really challenging the idea that you could kill if you just feel unsafe. And that will be, I think, a law that was going to shape the rest of the country. So we have a lot of work to do around culture shifting, but we also do have a lot of work to do around changing legislation so that there's so we can hold law enforcement accountable.
All right, Patrice Cullors, co-founder of Black Lives Matter, and Sonia Pruitt, chairperson of the National Black Association. Thank you to you both for joining me. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.